New footage emerges of Devin Haney getting pulled up on by Gervonta Tank Davis, and we gonna talk about it. Make sure you check out the first part of this video. Gervonta Davis was in Las Vegas, and he was there to promote his own fight. Very good fight versus Frank Martin. I talked about the fight. I'm looking forward to the fight. I think it's a dangerous fight for both. Two southpaws, both undefeated, both black Americans, good slickness, good power, good, just overall skill set. Good, great teachers and coaches. Derek James with Frank Martin, who showed a great game plan with Ryan Garcia versus Devin Haney. Then on the Gervonta Davis side, you have Coach Calvin Ford, Coach Kenny. This is going to be a doozy. I'm really looking forward to the fight. You guys let me know what you think of the fight. Check out some of the other content. My name is Ego. I've been covering boxing over 10 years, best in the business, and it's not even close. And he was there for that. They did the press conference. It got chippy, and he pulled up on Devin Haney at a club. Devin Haney, as you guys know, he has lived in the Las Vegas area for quite some time, coming off of the loss to Ryan Garcia. And Tank seen his opportunity and wanted to, I guess, check Devin Haney's temperature and see what was good. Now, again, check out part one of this video. I don't personally have too many thoughts about it, but I do got to respond to some of the notions that are out there. There's some people saying, oh, why is Tank doing this? Tank waited until Devin Haney lost, and then now he's pressing Devin Haney. What are we talking about? We're talking about war. We're talking about rivalries. We're talking about nemesis. So if Devin Haney lost to Ryan Garcia, what does that got to do with Tank Davis? Like, he still pulled up on him. It didn't look like he had a big, huge entourage. And that's the reality. We seen it. The tape, you seen it at the beginning. That's what happened. So for people, I feel like there's a lot of deflection. Let's talk about what happened. He pulled up on him and he said his piece. They said their piece. And that's really it. But to make it look like Gervonta Davis has been afraid to say anything until he lost, it's kind of a weird angle to me, because I seen comments like that. Someone on my Instagram, I believe, they said like, oh, Gervonta Davis has been avoiding Devin Haney for 7 years. Devin Haney 7 years ago was fighting like some random African. 7 years ago is 2017. So to say he's been avoiding Devin Haney since 2017 is utterly ridiculous. We're talking about before he fought Lomachenko, before he fought against Kambosos twice, before he was undisputed. We're talking about like back closer to like the Showbox days of Devin Haney. So that in and of itself lets me know you don't know what you're talking about to say that Devin has been ducked by Tank Davis for 7 to 10 years. He's not even old enough to be in that age group. Like, Devin legit is 25, 26. So when we're talking about he's been ducking, the comments you guys are leaving me, if you're going to say that he's been ducking for 7 to 10 years, Devin about 26 years old. So 10 years ago for Devin, since he's so young, would have been when he was 16. We seen Tank Davis sparring Devin Haney when he was 17, and people made a bunch of excuses and said, oh, it's because Devin was only 17, things like that. So it's like, what are people even talking about? Like, truly, really and truly, he's been ducking him for 10 years, 7 years even. 7 years was before the Jojo Diaz fight. So that doesn't make sense either. The other thing we got to put in perspective is the mere fact of, look at Tank's last year, right? You had Gervonta Davis last year. Gervonta Davis, he had 2 fights, one against Hector Luis Garcia in DC, basically, at the Capital One Arena in January. Months later, he came back. He took one undefeated fighter, stopped him, became the first to stop him, who had a great win over Chris Colbert. And then he fought against Ryan Garcia in the biggest grossing fight of last year, bigger than Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. So I said that to say this. What point would he have been worried about Devin Haney, knowing I just told you the first part of his year, which was dealing with 2 fights and being active and putting on a mega event with Ryan Garcia, right? Which Devin Haney and team tried to do, but it wasn't as successful. So that's question number 1. Question number 2, let's look at the back half of his year. Tank had, from previous years ago, there was some kind of hit and run altercation situation where he was being sued or, people seeking damages, blah, blah, blah. So he had a fight in court. He fought in court. Initially, he avoided jail time, but because his living quarters weren't the initial agreement to live with Coach Calvin Ford, and he was in hotels or whatever, the judge put him in the slammer and made him sit down. He got out, and then he was on house arrest and couldn't leave. So again, people are like, oh, why is he doing this when Devin Haney lost? But that's literally what happened. And he just got off house arrest a few months ago. So what point would he have been able to have this same confrontation that people are so startled by? It makes no sense. His whole last year was pretty well booked. He was sitting down. He was on house arrest. So how could he have pulled up to Las Vegas to be at the same spot as Devin Haney and confront him? So then now what are we talking about? We're talking about, and I don't even know the exact date. I could find it, but for the sake of this review and video, I didn't look it up or research it, but I know it wasn't that long ago. So you mean to say he was supposed to, Devin just lost to Ryan Garcia on 4/20. So because he didn't come to Vegas in January, February, March, there was no boxing on in January, no real boxing on in February. There was no big fights. The closest would be Pitbull versus Rolly, Tim Tszyu, Fundora, which was in March, but that's a co-main event against 2 guys he had already beaten. So you likely weren't going to see Tank Davis in attendance for that, because what's the point to watch Tim Tszyu and Fundora? That's a good fight, but it's not necessarily a fight you're going to travel for. But he went to Canelo-Munguia, which was a bigger event. More stars are out. And then they also combined it with his press conference, which made all the sense in the world, with Frank Martin. So to all the people who are saying, oh man, why did Tank wait to do this? You got some questions to answer. Checkmate.